Well, I'm so excited about this next guest. She is a children's author, and I met her and her husband a few years ago. I was on a cruise in the Caribbean, and they came to me about a book idea. They were wanting to write a book, and in fact, I'm just going to bring her on because Alisa Ann Cooper, welcome to the Michael D. TV show. How you doing today?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Now your husband David. We're going to get to the sad news. He recently passed last August, but I think it's pretty incredible that you're carrying out his dream and vision and actually publishing him. Because I remember the day he called me and he says, "Oh, we're not going to do that original book we talked about. I got an idea for a children's book." I'm like, okay. And then he sent it over, and I'm like, this is epic. So tell me a little bit about your whole journey, and of course, David and you co-authoring this book. I mean, it honors him so well that you're launching this book now. How special is this to you?
Yeah, a short version of our life together. We were each other's first boyfriend and girlfriend as teenagers, and back then you didn't have cell phones, and it's hard to stay in touch. He lived about an hour and a half north of me. I was 15, he was 17, so very young little love. We kept in touch through our cousins, which is how we met each other. It was at my aunt's house. So she was like we called it the flop house where everybody hung out. I was only there for like a week because I was a full-time athlete. And so I went there one summer to vacation, kind of get away and get my mind right. I was struggling a little bit in gymnastics, which was my sport. I met David. So we parted ways, just kind of, we really actually never officially even broke up, which is kind of funny. We used to joke about that. We married other people, had children. We met back together later in life when my aunt passed away. And she used to always say, if it's the last thing I ever do, it's going to be to get you guys together. And she was always trying to stir that pot, but we were always with other people. And so it is kind of an interesting part of our journey, together as a married couple. And we had just celebrated our 16th anniversary on a European cruise, and we're checking off, more live lists. We traveled, we pretty much were living that lifestyle of work and play all over the world. And David, I found him in the shower, and he had had a stroke. He lived for 5 days, and then there was a mistake that was made. He had fully recovered for the most part. We were talking about how we were going to get us home, and there was a mistake that was made, and he passed. And so, during that journey, this has been, almost a year now. So I'm much healthier, and obviously I had to go through a lot of healing. But one of the things that I promised him is that I would finish the projects that he hadn't completed yet, that I told him, you are going to finish these projects on your own. I'm going to be your greatest cheerleader and your advocate and help you. But our marriage was very much like I was the finisher. And so I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. And so the irony of this whole thing that I was telling you earlier is here I am finishing. So
you guys both, in your own right, serial entrepreneurs,
yes,
doing your stuff. You had your gymnastics business, and now you had your online businesses and
yes,
cool things like that. How cool was that you came together later in life? I mean, I didn't really know that about you guys.
Yeah, it's interesting because he and I always were connected on a soul level. And I think, we talked about it as adults, why we were not probably best to be each other's first marriage. We had to have starter marriages. And, the thing about it is his first wife, her and her husband, so she's the mother of his child, Jeremy, and she was in our wedding party, and her husband, Dave, was in our wedding party. So we parented together. I have a daughter from a previous marriage. And, we just know later in life was better for us. I think it would have been very tumultuous. We grew a lot apart, and when we came together as adults, I think we completed each other's missions and goals together as a couple, and David's were done. That's what I finally realized is he used to say all the time, when my missions and goals are complete, I will, ascend to the next plane. And sure enough, looking back now, and of course, this has been me healing and kind of processing it all, but he really was ascending it within his body. I could see how much his vibration had leveled up. And this book was part of that journey, and when you read it, you'll understand, he literally knows his purpose is to make a difference in the children's lives through what he calls the voice of it is from when he was a child growing up, listening to the Narnia books. This is what inspired this book. And then a download that he had one night. He's like, Alisa, we need to help the children. We need to help them live in their gifts. We need to remind them that they have power in what they're born with. And that, even though some adults might be scared of what their gifts are, they need to like embrace them and live and move forward, because the adults in this world need to be changed by the children. And so anyway, yeah, so that's kind of like, sums it up, like it brings it to the book. And so he would talk to me about the book all the time. I actually had never read it until 2 days ago, because, in my healing journey, when I went to go finish this book, he was almost done. There's only 3 pages left, and he had actually already wrote it. And the illustrator was just waiting on the okay of, do these pictures match the words? And so I literally didn't really have to do anything but go, yes, this is okay. Yes, this is okay. So it was awesome. I mean, I'm so elated to be able to finish the project. And as I finished all the firsts of his, of his leaving this plane, it feels perfect. It feels timed perfectly.
It does. It does. And you share that so well. David, in his own words, on the back of Rilian and Bash in the Tournament of Mice, which is available everywhere: Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Target.com, Borders, Books A Million, everywhere books are sold, Walmart.com, Target. David says this on the back: as a child, I grew to love a particular series of children's books, and you mentioned that, and all the magic that came from each story. Oh, I did too. My beloved mother would read them to us before bed. She brought us to life, the highs and the lows of each character, with her animated and full of life storytelling. The scenes would jump off the page, and I felt enveloped in the fantasy world. That love moved with me into the rest of my life. And he goes on to say, all of the stories in the series are about people, most often children, being brought back to the magical fantasy world to save it from some type of evil. I believe that the time has come for the forces of that world to come to our world to save us, like our children have saved them. This is the story of the king of the mice, Reepicheep, and his people. Reepicheep's people are coming to our world to save us from being destroyed by the evil that threatens to plague our hearts. The names of the mice have been changed to avoid conflict in the world, but rest assured, boys and girls, the mice know who they are. Do you know who you are, where you're from, and more importantly, do you know your mission? Oh, and Alisa, this last paragraph, David says, that mission is for the mice to whisper to us the only solution to fight and win against the evil, that is to take on the mantle and pick up arms. We must learn to love one another and find ways to pay it forward. This is what will save us from the evil that is all around us. Wow.
Yeah.
Parents and grandparents, the feedback. I mean, school teachers, principals, we're getting so much feedback on this. The hardcover, the paperback, the ebook going #1. Congratulations. How does this feel finally launching you and David's book together?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful part of our story. And even though David isn't here physically, I know he is here. Through this book, his legacy is gonna move on, and I'll be working forward. Even though I didn't ever intend on it, I will be finishing this series. As I read it, and I realized in the last page, I was like, we're just getting to the good stuff. And so it's interesting because I've worked with children my entire life, and that's how I coach them. I tried to help them be in their gifts and honor what they've been born with, and really kind of light that fire while they're building their athleticism. Because I truly believe that teaching life skills through the sport of gymnastics was my mission for the majority of my life. And now I'm moving on out of that. And I think this is just a beautiful pivot into additional things that I'm doing besides this, but honoring children and staying within them is part of who I'll always be. I'll always be trying to encourage and enlighten and inspire children.
Oh, that's awesome. So question, are the mice going to jump on the balance beam? Are they going to learn the worlds of gymnastics?
Who knows? I'm thinking that actually might be a good, like, that's my wheelhouse. So who knows? I haven't like sat on it yet of like the second book, because like you said, the first book that David and I intended when we hired you was The Greatest Reward. And so I'm 80% done with that. And that's just our ultimate achievement system. And we taught it around the world for about a decade. So we put that into a book, and I'll be doing that next. And then after that, I'm going to do One Day in a Year. And then the part of this title, I'm not sure, but like losing a soulmate, losing a loved one, that will be my next book. And then I'll get to the children's books. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it all. I'm excited for my new pivot. And like I said, David has been still guiding me. He's just in a different plane. And I know that my missions and goals on this plane are not over. So until we meet again, I will be working my butt off throughout the world and just sharing and manifesting and living in a high vibration of love. And that's, I know, my part of my life here on this plane.
Well, you truly found your soulmate. To get to spend time with you guys all over the world in the Caribbean was a blessing for me. The short time I got to know you there in that week in the Caribbean, or that 9 days or whatever it was, because I can remember David calling me after that, and he was frustrated because he's like, I'm working on this book. I want to get this book out. But you could tell when he came back later, when he had the download about Rilian and the Tournament of Mice, it was a different energy. It was totally different energy. And so it wasn't any question that this book was going to be coming out quickly. And so I'm sure, since you guys are soulmates, blessed to find your soulmate later in life, you're going to get the download. I know you will. I know you're going to get these downloads, and it's just going to come to you. And it's going to be so fun to watch what happens and what you come up with these next few years. So the best way for people to get a hold of you is on your website for interviews, podcasts, and the book is available everywhere books are sold. I'll just put this up: BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, Walmart.com, and of course, Target.com. So, wow, we're getting great feedback, and we're seeing a lot of positive things from the books. What's something you want to close out with, or a major takeaway you want to leave everybody with?
Yeah, the interesting thing that I found after David's death is, and this has nothing to do with any of the books. It'll probably be in the book of the day in the year of life of that I'm going to write about honoring him and I after he left this plane. I would say what is really on my heart is to find some time and spend with yourself alone. The interesting thing about my own reflection after David passed is I realized I really had never had alone time. I went from like David to my high school boyfriend for 4 years to the father of my daughter for 14 years. And then David and I reconnected shortly after that. We were married for 16 years. So finding myself in the alone space and really honoring what brings me joy, I call it my third life. David gave me a chance and an opportunity to live a life that I never had the courage to live before. And so I think that's what I really want to end with, is to inspire people to really take a look at what brings you joy, what fills you with love, and start making those subtle shifts to do just that. Because when you live in a high vibration of love, the universe shows up for you. And you're living in that pay it forward mentality, which I've always done my entire life, and David and I did as a couple. It just, it's very powerful, and you just don't have to really work hard anymore every day. You just show up, and not that every day is perfect. It just, when you're living in that high vibration, you don't look anything as negative. You look at it as like, wow, this is where I'm going today. This is what I'm going to tackle today. This is what is going to change me today. This is what's going to move me today. So that's what I'd like to close with.
Alisa and David Muller. It's called Rilian and Bash in the Tournament of Mice, available everywhere. Thank you, Alisa, for this ray of sunshine today, breaking through the dark clouds in somebody's life and giving them hope and courage. And just reading the back cover from David meant so much, and seeing your joy here as we launch. And I know there's going to be many happy more books that are sharing some great tales of adventures for boys and girls around the globe. So parents, grandparents, grab 4 or 5 of these. Grab these for your reading groups, your book clubs, your churches, your school groups. This is your Cub Scouts groups, your Girl Scout groups, and of course the gymnastics groups. You want to share this book because this is going to bring a lot of laughter, joy, and hope to people around the world. And for being a best-selling published author, congratulations. And welcome.
Thank you so much.
And join us next time on the Michael D. Show, where we interview amazing authors from around the world.